appreciate everybody coming. I've been guiding people on retreat, Rebecca and I actually. And it's a very different atmosphere, people on retreat, and then all of us, non-retreaters. And the balance of two is really important. To have that time when we're silent, away from the world, not caught by our minds, really ready to do some inner work. It's not for everybody, but if it is, if you can do that, it's best to do that. You don't have to do it here or with me. There are plenty of wonderful options available. But don't go for 3 days or a day. If you're going to really retreat, go for at least a week and really do it. There are people in this room whose lives have been changed by retreat. So it's real, and it's traditional in all paths to withdraw from the world for a time. Some Buddhists go 3 years, 3 months, 3 days. Maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe you do. I don't know. But it's a wonderful practice. Just to feel what peace feels like. Because so many of us get caught in our worlds and we just don't experience peace. And it's important. I was thinking today about Islam because I was reading the commentaries on actually a very complimentary article about Islam, and so many of the comments people made were, Islam is a violent religion. And then I was thinking, they don't say hello, they don't say how are you, they say salam alaikum, which means peace be with you. So how come this violent religion has its greeting, peace be with you? There's a message that's constantly being given there. And in Judaism, shalom aleichem, peace be with you. It's really important. And I remember I was teaching in Japan, and we did this dance. We said, salam alaikum, shalom aleichem. And then there was this beautiful phrase in Japanese, hewa ga anatani, anatani hewa. And they were all lit up when it was said. And I said, what exactly does that mean? It means peace be with you. So, we want peace. We say we want peace. And we need to do the work to experience our own peace. And sometimes it's difficult. Oftentimes it's difficult. And it doesn't always make everybody else happy that we seek for peace. But frankly, upon the death of this body, I don't know if you'll see God or Saint Peter or any of the other stories that we grew up with, but I'm fairly confident from my experience and others that you'll see yourself. That's who you'll have to answer to. It's not some being that's so big and out there, but you, that's who you see. And you'll ask yourself, how was it? How did I do? How was life? Was I deep? Was I compassionate? Was I peaceful? Was I wise? Was I cruel? Was I limited? Was I opinionated? All of that stuff comes up. And if you want proof of it, if you let it, it'll come up now. You don't have to wait till you die. We constantly are questioning who we are and what we are. And as we answer those questions here, we are preparing ourselves to answer those same questions after we're not limited by this body. Yesterday was my dear friend Joe Miller's birthday. He was, if he was alive, 116 years old yesterday.
He's alive.
Yeah, he is alive, he is. Yes. And he always said over and over again, nobody knows you better than you do. And the corollary is, nobody covers up knowing you better than you do. So we have this strange relationship where we kind of cover who we really are. And yet we know ourselves better than anybody. And it's a challenge. It's really a challenge. So we'll do a little meditation. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't even have to sit up straight if you don't want to. You can do whatever you want. Let me see. Oh, there's all these people on Zoom now, huh? Okay, you all ready? Nod your heads. At least I know you're listening. Okay. We'll do this as a series of questions. And I'll pose questions, and if you wish, you can answer them. If you don't wish, you don't have to. So the first question in this questioning meditation is, what are the three external things in this world that make me happiest? Three things that give me deep happiness. Everybody have enough time? Okay, what are the three things I fear the most? Three things I fear the most. What are the three things that I would like others to know about me? Remember, this is just between you and you. We're not going to say, oh, let's have a discussion about it. What are the three things I would like others to know about me that I don't feel they know? What are my three biggest doubts? They're not fears now, doubts. So I doubt that there's life after death, for example, or whatever. Your three biggest doubts. Now this next one is not three things, but one question, and just answer it with one sentence or one phrase, not more than that. Don't explain it. And the question is, why did I come to earth? Why was I born? And if you think there's no purpose, that's okay. But really take a look. The next question, what's my higher purpose? What's my higher purpose? Certainly everybody has a higher purpose. What's my higher purpose? Last question. Am I willing to live my higher purpose? And again, this is just you. We're not going to discuss this. Am I willing to live my higher purpose? So you can sense, I hope, whether you're in the room or wherever you are, that this is a real meditation because the atmosphere is so radically changed. And yet the questions are difficult questions. And much as I hate to give advice, I'm going to give advice. If you ask yourself questions and you don't know the answer, you're hiding. I'm making a blanket statement. This is why I don't want to give advice. I'm terrible at it. But if you ask yourself something and you say, well, I don't really know, or I haven't this or that, you're hiding. You know the answer to these questions. You know, I didn't ask you, are you ready for death? Because you might not know the answer to that. But every one of these questions, you know the answer to. And the answer helps. It doesn't hurt. So without closing your eyes, without going anywhere, one more question. What are the three hopes that you have for your life? And don't be afraid of the answer. Now the next question is not a question, but it's common sense. Are you living your three hopes? You know, that's not to be answered, but to be looked at. If you hope for something in your life, are you living it? Are you moving towards it? I think we've made the mind, the spiritual path, self-awareness, realization much more complex than they really need be. And our ego resists that terribly. Our ego likes complexity. You know, there's a lot of spaces to hide. And the Sufis, although they talk about fana, about annihilation of the ego, it doesn't mean killing the ego. It really means annihilating, destroying that part of the ego which is not truth, so that the truth can be revealed. I mean, the greatest ego in the universe is God. All of this comes out of its desire, its vanity. That's what Inayat Khan said, and it's so true. All the universes, the planets, the galaxies, comes out of vanity. Look what I can do. You know, like a baby, not like a whatever, but like a child. Look what I can do. What fun is that?
It's loving vanity.
Hmm?
It's loving vanity.
Yeah, yeah. So the figure went up. Now science believes there are almost 3 trillion planets that can be habitable. I remember when, not so long ago, when I was in school, we were taught that there weren't any other planets for sure, except for the ones in our solar system. There's a lot more. Yeah, that's habitable, which is a very narrow window. Not to mention that habitable by what we assume are the necessary elements of life, which is absurd. I mean, what if a being is not physical? Well, it doesn't need carbon, and it does, all the water and so on. So yes, the primal meditation on a daily basis is really, who am I? And all of the great ones from, the earliest Indian prophets and Egyptians, and then all through the Hebrew prophets and Jesus, and certainly the great Zarathustra and others. Always ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? That's the path. And the answer cannot come from the mind. I think we know that. And we all could say, well, it comes from the heart and so on. But when we say that, that's from the mind too. That's a concept too. It's a concept of what the heart is. And it doesn't really bring us closer to it. So, if we wish to know, who am I? there's a process of knowing what I'm not. It's a process of going through everything you think you are and asking yourself, am I really that? And things will begin to fall away, and you'll realize, I've said this before, and forgive me for being boring, but who you think you are is just a series of habitual beliefs. And we've come to accept those habitual beliefs as that's who we are. And it's just, our sense of self is just like any other habit, except that it's more addictive than anything. We really believe that we are who we believe ourselves to be. I had an experience the other day. I was on an airplane, and I was wide awake, just sitting in the seat. It was funny because I was in a middle seat. I got the flight at the last minute, and I was just sitting in the middle seat, maybe realized it's not the most comfortable, so I said, well, I'll get quiet for a moment, and I was just sitting. And suddenly, physical reality changed in front of my eyes. Everything that was a moment ago wasn't there. Something else was there. And I was wide awake and had my eyes open. I made sure I wasn't sleeping. And I stayed in that state. And after a bit, everything changed back. And it got my attention. And I sat there and I said, well, I can't say which one is real, because they were both based upon my experience. You know, I think Al-Ghazali says Sufism is based upon experience, not concepts. This was my experience. Physical reality just changed. Radically, I might add. So if that was real, and it was for me, and this is real, well, then I know there's at least two realities, because I've experienced both of them. And then I questioned, well, my normal response would be, I'm more able to, or I've trained myself, or something like that, but that wasn't true. That wasn't truth. And what was true is my habitual viewpoint of myself had prevented me from seeing a broader possibility of me. Me in two realities, not just one. Now, you might ask, which I did after I came back and, I calmed down. I said, what's the point of this? Yeah, this is great, but what's the point? No answer. No answer at all. And then later on, I was changing planes. I think in Chicago, as a matter of fact. And I had a glimpse, really just a momentary glimpse of the answer to my question. And the answer was very interesting that I saw. What was the answer? To help me. All of this happened so that I could know more of who I am, and it helped me. And now I know that there are more than one reality. There is more than one reality in my universe. And, you know, although it might not appear it from everybody's projection, I'm just a normal person. You know, if you see otherwise, it's your projection. I'm just one of us. And I know you don't want to believe that, but it's true. I mean, and all of these realities, and there are others now, really want to help. And sometimes we forget that. Much of the universe, or universes, was created to help us. Not because we're the biggest egos, or, you know, we might be the biggest egos, but I don't think that's why. I think we have something to offer. What do we have to offer? You know, the Sufis say over and over again, as do the yogis. In esoteric Judaism, it's the same. Many traditions, it's the same. What is? Human beings are higher than the angels. Now, I'm not going to ask you if you think angels are real or not real, or what you think they are. That's your own creativity will come up with a response. But I will say one thing. Angels do one thing only. They glorify God. They really just do that. And that's huge. You know, because they know what they're glorifying more than we do. And yet, in the stories, symbolically, God said to the angels, bow down before the humans. And they did, except for one who was a little... no, not stubborn. Just so in love. So in love with that which it glorified. It wasn't their ego that wouldn't let them. You know, the devil is not made of ego. It's made of love. Misdirected, but love. So why is the human being higher? Well, I hope I can remember this story. I haven't told this story for a long time. Well, I can at least give the abbreviated version. Everybody still awake on TV there? Okay, just checking. There was an angel, always busy glorifying God, because that's what they do. And a situation occurred where that angel got to sit in front of God. Now, this is allegorical, okay? Don't take it literally. And it was sitting in front of God, and God said, ask me the question. And the angel was very hesitant, but said, I still don't understand why you want us to serve human beings. Look at what they do. They cause wars, they're cruel, they destroy planets, they're all self-centered and so on. Before the question was finished, that angel found itself in a human body, under a tree. Oh my God, how did this happen? And it felt very afraid. It had never felt fear before. It didn't know what that was. So it sat quietly under the tree. After a while, sitting there for a day or so, it began to have a feeling it never had before. Anybody want to guess what that is?
Hunger.
Yes. Say it loud.
Hunger.
Hunger. It sat there for a day with a human body, and suddenly it wanted to eat. It had never eaten in its eternal existence, but now it wanted to eat. What does one do? There was a young woman passing by, and the angel, now in the human form, said, I have this strange feeling here. I don't know what it is. If you didn't see, I patted my stomach when I said here. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to fix it. Do you know anything about this? And she looked at him and said, you're sitting under an apple tree. There are fresh apples all on the ground. You just pick one up and eat. He picked one up, he was completely hesitant, and he took a bite. Wow, this is delicious. I love this. And he ate the apple. And then he ate another apple. And the young woman said to him, not too many and not so fast. You have to learn how to really eat properly. She thought he was just somebody from the streets. Well, she said to him, well, where are you going to sleep tonight? Now, he had never slept, so he didn't realize that was a need. So he said, I don't know. Good answer. And she said, well, come to my house, we can take you in. So the angel went to her house. I guess at this point I have to make the angel a male. Forgive me, but that's part of the story. I didn't do it on purpose. He went to her house, and her parents welcomed him, said, come, traveler, if they only knew what a traveler he was. And they fed him, and they gave him a place to sleep. And they were very accommodating. And the father said, if you'd like, I have some work that I can give you in exchange for room and board. He didn't know what work was. You know, he had one job his whole eternal life, to glorify God. He didn't know that was work. That's all you did. So he said, oh, okay, whatever you say. Well, I'm going to shorten the story, otherwise we'd be here till midnight. He worked there for a while, and he was very loving and loved. One day, he was working with the father, and a branch fell off the tree and broke his leg. There were no hospitals then. He had never felt pain like this. He'd never felt that something could break. And he bandaged it up, and they took care of him. They put herbs on it, and they let him rest for a long time and took care of him. And the leg healed. As he was in bed, he began to have these very unusual feelings for the young woman. He never had that before. He thought, oh my God, this is different than eating and working. This is really something. And after a while, he said to her, I don't know what this is. I have these strange feelings about you. I dream about you. I think about you. And she said, I have them about you too. And it's called falling in love. I wish I could end this story here, but I can't. Well, they got married. And they went into the apple business. They got an apple orchard. And they had a great crop the first year. And they started to accumulate some wealth. The second year they got some more, accumulate more wealth, and they felt secure enough to have a child. They had a beautiful child. And the child was the joy of their life, and business was good, and time went on, and they had another child. Everything was just wonderful. And all the while that all these things happened, his wife would always say, thank God. Thank God we have good business. Thank God we love each other. Thank God we have beautiful children. Thank God your leg healed. He never said anything. He didn't understand, thank God. But he observed it, and he saw other people. Things would happen, and they would say, thank God. And he would think, that's a terrible thing. Why are they saying thank God? Well, one year, the crop failed. There were storms just when the blossoms came. There was no income. They had spent all their money. They had no food. And still, his wife said, thank God. And then their child got sick, their oldest child, and died. The wife said, thank God. It's God's will. They lost their house. They became wanderers. And he became very bitter. But the wife and the remaining child, they still maintained their faith, their love for him and for God, whatever God was. At that point in the story, he was taken back by God. So now he was part angel, part human. And he came to God. God said, how are you? And he fell down on the ground, hitting his head on the ground. He said, forgive me for ever doubting your guidance to us. Human beings are incredible. They live in this world that's difficult. There's pain and suffering. And yet there's kindness. They took me in. And they have faith in you when nobody should have faith in you. And they're grateful and they're thankful. they are truly, truly higher than I could ever imagine. Now, I must tell you, at this point, when I first heard the story, I wanted God to send the angel back and they live happily ever after. But it didn't happen that way. God said, I can't send you back. It wouldn't be good for you and not good for your family. But they're your family. So the responsibility for them, this is kind of the key line, goes to you. You can't just glorify me. You need to use your energy now, your experience, to take care of them. Glorify them, and you glorify me. That's the end of the story. It's difficult to be human. And people say these are difficult times. Many of us were alive in the 50s. To me, those were difficult times. Everybody was so asleep. It was really strange. These are what they are. Yeah, we have delicate situations now on the planet. And we need to change the totality of human consciousness quickly. But we can do that. Certainly we can do that. And I don't know what you've filled in for your dharma, your life's purpose, but that's part of it. If you're sitting here tonight, you're not sitting here so that you'll be enlightened. Honestly, there are better places to get enlightened. I really mean that. Go into the mountains and don't eat for 30 days or drink for 30 days, and if you make it through a life, maybe something will happen. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It could also strengthen your ego. Or become a naked television show, or something like that. But if you want to be part of a team to change human consciousness, well, that's part of our purpose. I don't know if it'll make our lives easier, frankly. Probably not. Probably not. If you want to make your life easier, you'll have to take some risks. There's no way to make your life easier unless you take some risks. But we can change things. And we have to really do that. Every person who either outwardly or inwardly says, I am a spiritual person. Before you go into a sweat lodge, Native American lodge, the person guiding the lodge will come to you with, usually depends on which tribe, which group, they'll put a little tobacco in your hand or cornmeal or something, and they'll say these words in English or native language, depending. You are a spiritual person. And you can't go into the lodge unless you accept, I am a spiritual person. Whatever that means, I am a spiritual person. It's a person of spirit. And if you are a spiritual person, you can change your consciousness and others as well. by your thoughts, prayers, words, deeds, hopes, fears, by eliminating the fears, you can change it. You can be one who affects consciousness. What I've learned, a teacher is just an actor playing a role. All of us are playing roles. And the teacher has this role given by God, real teacher, but it's a role. It's part of a play. But a spiritual person is not a role. It's not a mask you put on or an identity. It is a person who is really of spirit, of the very essence of God. We don't know God. We can't know God. You know, we like to believe we can, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to know us. That we can know. And I often say this, I'm quoting Teilhard de Chardin. We're not a person having a spiritual experience. We're a spiritual being having a human experience. Really, we are the spiritual person. We are the person of spirit. So, well, I'm going to stop. Any questions?
Shahabadin.
Oh, I know that voice.
You know that voice.
Especially, it follows the question, any questions? Suddenly I hear the angels calling my name, Shahabadin.
Shahabadin.
Yes.
I'm so glad to see you and be with you.
Thank you.
But I don't have a question about the talk. I have a question about your decision to work with ecology and what your plans are in that direction.
I just said it. What did I just say?
You're a spiritual being.
No,
having a
before that, just before that. What's our work?
to help people become more conscious.
To change consciousness. That's ecology. That's the fundamental of ecology. I have no thought that I can come up with some revelation that the scientists haven't thought of, or the artists haven't thought of, or native peoples all over the world haven't thought of. That's not what I want to do. I want to find people, and there are people on this planet who are hidden, but incredibly powerful people, and connect them in a conscious network to change human consciousness. And I can't get to them on Zoom, and I can't call them on a cell phone. They're not in those worlds on purpose. But they're available. And in the Abrahamic reunion, and Ghassan knows this well, when we started, there were these beautiful peacemakers in Israel. Israel is this little country. It's a little bigger than this room. And yet, they didn't know each other. They heard, oh yeah, I heard of Ilyas Jabor, but they didn't know each other. So what we did was bring them together. And in that way, they became a force. And more people come. There are, whatever you want to call them, shamans, healers, enlightened ones, who really can affect human consciousness. That's my plan.
Thank you. I thought it was something totally different.
Well,
I'm so glad you clarified. I mean, I just thought, well, you were going to find ways of getting legislature passed that would save our planet.
I did. I just said that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I found a way. Now we just have to implement it.
By bringing all the shamans together.
Not physically,
No, by changing
But-
consciousness.
but bringing
Change.
anyone who can effectively change consciousness into the awareness that they can change consciousness, and that there are others who can also change consciousness, and we need to connect. We don't need to connect physically. Even though it's nice, it's a nice experience to come together. But we need to be able to remember the story about when my physical reality changed?
Yes, I do.
And the purpose of it was
To help you. And that's what you saw. Oh, well, see, I'm glad I asked the question.
I'm always glad you ask your questions, except not always. Now, do I think we can do it? I don't think we have a choice. That's not to create more fear or anything, but I think that we can change people's minds. Look at what's happening now. We're trying to change people's minds, and what have we created? Absolute division all over the planet. It's not just here. So we can change people's minds. What can we change? People's consciousness. Really, that's what we can change. What?
I'm just thinking, I was thinking hearts, and then I thought but maybe hearts are the same as consciousness.
We know what it means, all of us sitting here. We know, when I say change consciousness, we all know what that means. And yet nobody has yet scientifically defined consciousness. And science admits it. We can define mind, we can define thought, we can talk about chemical reactions in the brain and so on. But pure consciousness, who knows? But we can affect it.
Melody, in your email, you said something about you were going to focus on climate change. Is that?
I am. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I think that the biggest outer material threat we have on the planet now is the destruction of the planet. And it is causing not just climate change, but it is causing consciousness change. And we need to deal with that, yes. I was speaking with someone, a friend of mine who I respect, and he said, well, we'll develop some new technology that will save us. And you know what I said? I hope so. I'm not against that. I hope so. In the meantime, while we're developing new technologies, the clock is ticking. And we, in this room, I don't believe, and maybe I'm wrong because I don't know all of you well enough, but we're not going to develop new technologies in this room, but we can affect consciousness. And I watch people, and I watch spiritual people, I watch disciples and so on, and I see people are self-interested and not kind. And if we want to change things, well, we have to be, I don't want to sound like a sermon, but we have to train ourselves to control some of the misdirected fire in us so that we can be a little kinder to each other. And not always promoting our own self-interest, or not even self-interest, our own idea of what's right and wrong. We're not listening to God or to each other. And we're not because we're afraid. And, I wish I could say, if we do this, I guarantee everything will be okay on the earth. I don't know that. And maybe be okay on the earth might happen in 10,000 years and so on. But we're alive now. This is our opportunity. It's up to us to do the work. Yeah. And it begins in little circles. Being honest with each other, being kind, and hearing the other as oneself.
Changing consciousness, this idea of how you do that and how often the I that tries to change the other will never succeed. And so it's this way we approach changing consciousness that's the key. Can you elaborate a touch on that?
Did everybody hear that? Yeah? Okay. Did you all hear that? No. Sorry, Shams. Say it again if you don't mind.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
The second version.
You're allowed to repeat the first. You don't have to.
Well, I would if I could. As we imagine changing consciousness, there's this relationship between the I that tries to change the other. And that way of approaching change never works. And so how can we approach that more like the healer that heals with their shadow?
Yeah. That's a beautiful question. Honestly, Shams, I don't know the answer. Each of us has to find that. If I said, do this, this, and this, it's like we're starting just another dogma. I don't know. We have to search. We have to search our souls and find it. But it helps to be kind, and it helps to try and feel the other.
You answered it partly by saying we know what doesn't work.
Yeah. We do know what doesn't work. We have plenty of examples of that. But I might add that it's an invitation when you realize you don't know the answer. Then you become what? A seeker after truth. There is truth. And the answer is not words. But it's real. It's really real. At the same time, yes, we need to do the self-work that we started with those simple questions. We need to make the effort to work on ourselves. Because in the habitual state, we won't help anybody. We can't become anyone else until we lose our habitual self-identity. So let's do a few minutes of practice together so we don't leave thinking. There are people here from all over the world, just so you know. So we're already changing consciousness, you know, all of us. Okay, ready? I think what we need to do, I have to ask someone in this room if they'll sing for us. And we need to listen. Oh, hang on one second.
The picture's gone away.
Okay. I don't do Windows computers. Somebody has to get the picture back on.
I'm just getting ready for whoever's going to sing.
You lost it.
Okay. So go into that state that you know, your real state, as best you can.
طلبت من سيد الخمار مغفرة فقال هيهات فالإبريق معبود به توضأت قبل اليوم في حلب ونمت فيها ونجم القطب عنقود يفنى الظلام يفنى الظلام يفنى الظلام وروح الليل باقية وباب خمارتي في الليل موصود يفنى الظلام في الليل وباب خمارتي في الليل في الليل موصود هوى على قدم هوى على قدمي الساقي وقبلها هوى على قدمي الساقي وقبلها وقال لي وقال لي وقال لي وقال لي أنت بعد اليوم موعود.
warner of coming dangers, wakener of the world from sleep, deliverer of the message of God. Thou art our Savior, the sun at the dawn of creation, the light of the whole universe, the fulfillment of God's purpose. Thou, the light eternal, we seek refuge in thy loving enfoldment. Spirit of guidance, source of all beauty, and creator of harmony, love, lover, and beloved Lord, thou art our divine ideal. Amen. So, it's enough. It's kind of nice to feel sober, you know. Most of us are constantly drunk. And here we have a moment with the talk and the singing to just feel sober, not intoxicated by who we think we are. Thank you. Thank you all.
Same time next week, right, Shahabadin?
Same time next week. Yes.
You'll be here.
Inshallah, with you?
Shalom.
No,